we're going to go through an isometric sketch example. And so first of all, that word isometric means equal measure. And so if we look at this graph paper here, this is what we're going to do our isometric sketching on. These lines are all 120 degrees apart. So the isometric lines are 120 degrees apart. And so go ahead and get your engineering notebook set up, and then get yourself a piece of isometric graph paper, and we'll do the sketch on the isometric graph paper because it's easier to complete it on that, and then we'll cut it out and put it in the engineering notebook. So the first thing that we're going to do is we want to make a point out here in space somewhere. We're going to create a width line, and so remember, it's very important to understand those dimensions, width, height, and depth. So we're going to make that width line 1.5 inches, and so I'm going to count down following this isometric line 6 spaces, because that will give us 1.5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to put a dot right there. So that's the baseline for the object that we're going to be drawing today. Alright, the back of the object from this side has a height of 1 inch. So I'm going to go up from this point 4 spaces for 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot, and I'm going to draw a line between those 2 points. From that point, if we're going to continue to create the front view, we're going to go on this isometric line. It goes over 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go over 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, put a dot, then I'm going to draw a line there to connect it. Again, that's a width line. Notice how this width line and this width line are parallel to each other. From this point, we're going to put in another height line. It's 1/2 inch up, so I'll go up 2 spaces from that point in the height dimension, and I will sketch in that height line. From there, our drawing has an angled line, and so this point connects with that point, and so I will just simply put my straight edge so it lines up those 2 points. I'll draw a line straight there, and that's what would be considered the front view of this object. Now we need to go ahead and put in depth lines, and so remember, these are width, this is a height line. Our third dimension that we need is depth. The depth of this object is 1/2 inch, and so from this point I'm going to make it go back on this other isometric line 1/2 inch, right like that. I can put the line in. From this point, I'll go back 1/2 inch, the line in. This one I connect the dots because it's a non-isometric line. And this last one back here, connect the dots. There's an isometric sketch for like a simple shape. The last thing we're going to do again is add some tonal shading to that. So again, I will make a series of horizontal and vertical lines to show that tonal shading. So when I've got my shading done, I'll go ahead and grab some scissors. Cut out my sketch here. Cut it out nice and neat. I'll come back to my engineering notebook, isometric sketching, and I'll glue it right in there. When I put this in here, I'm going to try to line up these height lines with the height lines on my grid. That way it goes in the notebook correctly. So that's isometric sketching